All right, hello everyone. This is Professor Robert Solis. Welcome to this next video lesson. So what I want to do is I want to continue talking to you guys about strings and how we use strings in C++. So what I'll do is I'll go back over here. This is the standard boilerplate code that we type in for all of our C++ programs. What I want to do is I also want to include the string library. The string library is a collection of tools that you can use. You could think of the string library as a toolbox. Now that you've incorporated this, you have all kinds of options. So what I'll do over here is I'll go to declarations and I'll create a string. Now the name of this string is going to be name, and I'll put Mrs. Kristen Solis. And I'll create another string, say first name, and I will set that to nothing. Last name, set that to nothing. We'll say gender, and again we'll set that to nothing. And so our goal is to strip this name apart. So if I see something like MR, then that's going to be gender male. If I see MRS, or if I see MISS, or if I see MS, then that's going to be gender female. So I'll be able to determine the gender by the prefix of the person's name. And then I want to strip out the first name and I want to strip out the last name and assign that to first name and last name. Okay? This would be great if we had a database of names. And you know how you get those mailers where it says, hello, Mr. Solis, or hello, Robert, if they want to be casual. How are they so personal like that, right? Well, because your name is probably in some database. You know, when you buy something at Home Depot, hey, what's your first name? Talk, talk. What's your last name? What's your email? Okay, well, guess what? You've just joined social engineering. When you go to Acapulco and they say, hey, put your business card here so that you can win a monthly free meal. Well, guess what? They're typing all your information, and then they sell that information to advertisers. And again, you've just joined as part of the social engineering that has taken place of how to gather information about you. That's why I never do that. I never want to give people my personal information like that. Here, we're going to take the person's entire name and strip it down so that we can assign it to different parts. And then now I can send out a mailer, say, for example, because I know the person's first name, last name, and their title. Okay, so in order to do that, I'm going to need to locate this space right here, because after that space is the person's beginning of the first name. And then after this space is the beginning of the person's, I'm sorry, I'm not sure if I said that right. After this space is the person's first name. After this space is the person's last name. So I need to know the location of those spaces. Now here's how I want you to think about this string. A string is nothing more than a collection with an address. This is address 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This is address 10, which I'm going to put that 0 right there. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So each of these different letters, including the spaces, including that period right there, has an address location. Really, a name is nothing more than an array of characters. You could think of it that way, with certain address locations. Okay, so what we'll do is I need to know the index of the space. Now, temporarily, I'll assign that to 0. Now, we know that the index of the space, it looks like it's right here at index 4. But for right now, let's just give it an initial value of 0. I also am going to need to know the index, the index of the space before. And I'll go into how I'm going to use that in just a moment. I'm also going to need to know the index of space after. I'll set that to 0. I want to know the length of the string, and I'll set that to 0. Oops, I forgot the semicolon over here. There we go. So the length of the string, I'm going to ask the user if they want to try this again, similar to the other programs that I created where we're asking the user for a second or third attempt. So we'll just set that equal to y in the very beginning here. Okay, so the idea is this. First of all, let's assume that everyone who has a name is also going to include a title, like MR, period, or MISS, period, so forth and so on. So based on that title, I can determine the person's gender. So what I'm going to have to do is this. I'm going to have to say, okay, well, first of all, where's that space after my initial point over here at position 0? Once I find that space, then I know the length of the title that I'm looking for. In this case, it's going to be MRS with the period afterwards. Now that I'm over here, let's find out what that first name is. Well, the first name is going to be wherever my space is plus 1. So that's at index 4 plus 1. That puts me at index 5. Where's the space after this space over here, the space before the name? Well, the space after is over here. Well, now I can determine what the length is, right? So I know that the space before, that's the end of the person's first name. The space before over here, that plus 1, that's going to tell me where the beginning of that first letter is. I could subtract those two to get the person's name, and so forth and so on, right? You know, I heard that George Foreman, the famous boxer, yeah, all of his children are also called George Foreman, right? But they're George Foreman the first, George Foreman the second, George Foreman. So, I mean, some people may have longer names, may have suffixes. We want to be able to find the spaces in between. Okay, so now that I've got this, let's go over here to the user input, get user input, and we're going to have a while statement. Well, first of all, it's going to be based on that try again variable, and if it's equal to lowercase y, or if try again is equal to uppercase y, then we're going to do this chunk of code over and over again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask for the user input. So we'll say cout, enter your full name with prefix. Now, I don't want to use cin because cin will not grab anything after the first space. So for example, if I did something like this, if I said cin and put that into name, which I'm not going to do, this is wrong. So let me get ready to erase this here. If I did do this, it would just grab the MRS period and put that into the name. Because what it's looking for is the first white space, whether that's a tab or a space bar or the enter key. And then after that, it's going to ignore everything else. So it's just going to grab this first part and put it into name. So we don't want that. We want the entire line. So the better tool to use would be getLine. And with getLine, we're still going to input the data from the keyboard, and we're going to put it into the variable name. So if you are interested in grabbing the actual entire line of code, or the entire line of input, I should say, then you definitely want to use getLine. Okay, so now that we've done that, within here, let's go ahead and get the gender. So that's a variable that we created up here. We're going to grab that based on the prefix that was entered by the user. And so we're going to, from this name right here that was entered by the user, let's say that it's Mr. Robert Solis, so it's got MR period, say for example. I want to grab part of that string. And so that's what substring does. Substring will grab a part of the string based on some location. So the first parameter indicates the starting location or the starting index. The second parameter indicates the length. Well, I'm going to want to grab all the way up to everything before this first space. So from here to here before the first space. That's going to give me the prefix. Okay, so over here we'll do this. We'll say substring. Now we're going to start from position 0, so I'll say 0 over here, comma. Now remember, I want to go all the way up to, but not including that space. So what I'll do is this. I'll incorporate into here the same name, dot, find. Now the way that find works is it's going to ask, what is it that you're looking for? Well, I'm looking for a space. Fine. Where do you want to start from? I want to start from position 0. So let me just write a quick comment here. Find, the way that that works is what are you looking for? That's the first parameter, and then that's the starting point. Maybe I should put this on the next line. Okay, that's how find works. Now the way that substring works is the starting point is the first thing that you enter, and then the length of the substring that you want to grab. So if I said 0 and if I said 3, then substring would grab from position 0 a total of 3. 1, 2, 3. So that's what it would grab if I put 0 over here and 3 over here. What find does is it says, okay, so what are you looking for? Well, in this case, I'm looking for a space. All right, starting from where? Starting from position 0. All right, so I'm looking for a space starting from position 0. Are you a space? No. Space? No. Space? No. Space? No. Space? Yes. So what this find returns is the index 4. That's what this thing is going to return, index 4. So starting from position 0 all the way to index 4, that's going to give us what the gender is. All right, so if I have that, then I can say gender, or if gender is quote MR period, or it could be that gender is just simply MR without the period, or maybe if we're from England, the gender is Sir, like Sir William. If that's the case, and of course I'm sure you could think of other prefixes to consider. If that's the case, then we know that the gender is male. And we'll go to the beginning of the next slide. Now that's assuming that the gender is Mr., Mr., or Sir. Else, if the gender is, say for example, Ms., which typically means a single female, or if the gender is Ms. without any type of punctuation, or we say gender is Miss, oops, sorry, say for example, or maybe I have the gender Miss with punctuation. Gender, how about this? It could be Mrs., right? Like that, with the punctuation mark, or gender MRS without the punctuation mark, right? So we have all kinds of different options. Now, if it's one of these, perhaps you can come up with some others. You would just list them here. If it is one of those, then we'll just simply say cout gender, put a period there, female. And let me just fix this over here, like that. Save my work. All right, so all of that from basically obtaining the substring and using find nested in within here. Now, could I have done this on 2 separate lines? Yeah, I could have done that. I could have said location of space, use this, and then I could have had a separate substring to find what the gender is. So I just included it all in one line, but you could spread it out.
Oh, you said you could put it on 2 lines?
You could. Yeah, like, let me see, I think I have a variable here. Let me see, index of space. I could have done this. I could have said index of space and have that be name.find. Actually, just simply copy and paste all this. Put that here with a semicolon. And then over here, this would have been index of space. Yeah, so you can break it up into several lines of code if you want. Okay, so now I have the if statement to determine what the gender is. Now what I'm going to do is I know the location of this space right here. So that means the item after the space, the letter after the space, that is the beginning of the first line. And we're going to have to keep on going. And once I find the space after this current location of the space, then that means I have to go one less than this to just grab the name by itself and not the name with the space, right? So that's what our goal is. So I'll go back over here. And we'll say the index of space before. That is going to be name.find. I'm looking for a space starting from position 0. So it's going to find this space. Maybe I should just copy and paste this here. Just copy and paste that. Copy. And I'll just put a comment over here. So we are finding the space before, so it's going to find this space right here. That's what it'll locate. And then we'll say index of space after. And again, we're going to go with the find. And what I'm looking for is, again, a space, but I'm not looking for a space from position 0. I'm looking for a space from index of space before plus 1. So in other words, okay, so I know where index of space before is. That's this guy right here. Maybe I should go ahead and copy this comment as well. Copy that. There we go. And bump this over a little bit. There we go. I know the position of this space right here. That's at index 4. Well, starting from index 4 plus 1. Oh, so starting from this K. Look for the index of the space after. So from this point, are you a space? Are you a space? No, 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 no. Are you a space? Yes. Ah, so the space is at position 12. For this given string, that's what's going to be returned right here. Okay. Well, now I can find out what the length of the string is. So over here, I'll just say length of string is going to be whatever name is dot length. I shouldn't say now I can find the length of the string. I could have always found the length of the string. It's just simply dot length to be able to determine the name. And the name, as you can see, is, in my particular case, Mrs. Kristen Solis. All right. So now that we've got this preliminary information, let's go ahead and obtain the first name. So to obtain the first name, what we're going to do is assign to the variable first name dot substring. Remember, substring is going to grab a part of the string. Well, the first thing that I have to do is to say, where is this thing located? Well, I know the index before, and I'm going to add 1 to it. Why? Because the index before is right here. That plus 1, 4 plus 1 is 5, that's the beginning of my string right here, that letter K, for this particular string. So that takes care of my starting point. Now remember, the next variable is how many letters do you want to grab? Okay, so think about this. We want to grab, we know this right here. So 1 less than that is right here. So I want to take all of this and subtract all of this, and then I just get that. Right. So wherever this is, 1 less, that's what I'm going to take into consideration here. So we'll say the index of space after minus the index of space before, and then minus 1. Oops, put a semicolon over here. There we go. Where's that space? Okay, subtract 1 from that. Now we're considering from here. That's what I want to grab. By taking all of this minus all of this, I get just this. Okay. So that's our first name. And we'll just simply see out first name and else statement. Now let's obtain the last name. So the last name is very similar. Now what we'll do is this. It looks like the last name is going to be the space after. This is space before. This is space after. Well, I can get the last name because I know the entire length of the string. The entire length of the string is this. Looks like it's 17 characters in this particular example. So 17 minus 12, that's going to be 5. So let's see here. The 12 is because that 2 right there, right? This is 10, 11, 12. All right, so 17 minus 12, that's 5. That tells me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have to grab 5 characters starting from position 13. Okay, so over here, we're going to say last name is going to be name.substring. Now, where am I going to start from? Well, I already know that this guy over here is space after, right? Index of space after, so 1 plus that. So we'll say index of space after, oops, sorry, after, plus 1. So that tells me start at the location S, start at index 13 in this particular case. Now, how many characters do you want me to grab? Well, I know the length. I know where that space is. I'm going to say start from this location over here, start from this location and get rid of this. So it's going to be this minus this gives me this. So the way to do that, length of string minus index of space after minus 1. Once I've got that last name, I can send it out by using cout. And then when we're all done, we can ask the user if they want to try again. So we'll say cout, and del, just so I have a, go to the beginning of the next line. Try again. With a yes, no. And then we'll cin and put that into the variable try again, which is nothing more than a character. And so that's the end of the while statement. Let's just make sure here. What I like to do, if the code goes off screen, I'll just simply take all this right here, I'll copy it, and I'll put a comment over here and copy the code here. That way you know that this curly bracket belongs to the while statement. The calculation and the output was really part of this program inside the while statement. So I could have done something like this. I could say, well, that's really part of the output, I guess. And that's really part of the calculation. So I'll just leave those comments out, and then we're done over here. So let's see what happens. Save the code, run it. Okay, so we'll say Mrs. Kristen Solis, enter. All right, gender female. Uh-oh, looks like I forgot to go to the beginning of the next line for Kristen and Solis. So I was able to grab it, but I didn't go to the beginning of the next line. So let me fix that. And let's see, obtain first name. So what I forgot to do is, let's just put an endel here to go to the beginning of the next line. And I do that over here, so that's automatically going to put the last name over there. So let's see what happens. All right, Mrs. Kristen Solis. There we go. Gender female. We grab the first name. We grab the last name. Try again? Sure. All right, Mr. Sir Robert Solis. All right. Oh, wait a minute. I didn't put yes. Sorry about that. I was so concerned with my title that I forgot to put. Okay, so let's see here. We'll say Sir Robert Solis. Enter. Okay, so male Robert Solis. Perfect. Try again. No, it's okay. All right. So these are great tools to use. Substring grabs a chunk of the string, starting from a given location, and how many characters do you want to grab. Find is also very powerful because what is it that you're finding? Do you want to find Mr.? Do you want to find Ms.? How about this? Some people have prefixes like DR for doctor, or MD, for medical doctor, or PhD for doctor of philosophy, so forth and so on. Maybe that's what you're looking for. Maybe you're looking for PhD, say for example, or you're looking for doctor, or whatever it is that the prefix is. You indicate what it is that you're looking for, what you're trying to find, and from what position are you looking for that. So I have these comments over here to remind you of how to do that. And so what you have to be considerate of is when you are finding, say for example, this space before, well, from the beginning of the string, that's easy. Starting from here, find the space. So are you a space? No, no, no. Yeah, you're a space. So find will return the index 4 and put that into index of space before. Now, this one's going to be a little bit more tricky because what we're doing is we're trying to find the space that's after this space. So that's why I +1 it. Wherever you are, index of space before, +1. So starting from here, locate the next space. Okay, the next space is over here. And so that's what this is. And then, of course, grabbing the length of the string, that's simply dot length with an open close parentheses. If I just want the first name, now here's the strategy. Okay, so let's see what this is. Index of space before, for our example, that's the number 4. Index of space after, that's the number 12. So let me just put a comment over here. So if the index of space before, I'll just put space before. Space before. The index of the space before is 4. The index of the space after is, for this example, 12. Notice what we're doing over here. To find the first name, we're saying the index of the space after, which is 12, minus the index of the space before. So 12 minus 4, that's going to be 8. And then what does it say over here? 8 minus 1, that's going to be 7. So now look at what happens. This is going to indicate how many characters I need to grab. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, perfect, 7. Okay. So that's how I'm determining the number of characters to grab. I'll take the space after minus the space before minus 1, and then that'll give me exactly the same number of characters that I need. And the same approach over here, but we're using the length of string. So the length of string, it looks like it's 17. So we'll say length. That's 17 in this particular case, of course. So I want to grab the last name. Well, this is saying get the length of the string. Okay, that's 17 minus the index of space after. So the index of space after is 12, right? As you can see right here, it's 12. 17 minus 12, that's going to be 5. And then minus 1, that's going to be 4. So what this is saying is, starting from this position right here, plus 1, go ahead and grab this certain number of characters. And that's it. So this is Professor Robert Solis. I hope this video lesson was helpful. Have a good day. See you next time.